Hi, this is Ken Gafka from Coldwell Banker Devonshire here in the Denver metro area. And today I want to talk to you about a question that I hear a lot these days. And that question is, Ken, do you think we're in a housing bubble? And I certainly understand the question and understand the concern around it, as the memories of that last housing bubble are very, very fresh in our minds. But my answer to that question, really in my opinion, is no, we are not. And here's why I think that. And really you got to go back to what's different today versus what existed 10 years ago. And when you go back, 10 or so years, to me, it's all about the availability of credit. It was easy money. Anybody who asked for a mortgage could essentially get one. And many of those mortgages were adjustable rate mortgages where you start very low, very little down payment, which gave the appearance of affordability in the housing market. This created tremendous demand, which spurred tremendous building. And what this did was accelerate the economy. And we had a very robust economy that in a large part was driven by the incredible building out of residential homes and properties. But what happens when you have an accelerating economy, you typically have accelerating interest rates. And because many of those mortgages were based on adjustable rates, as the economy continued to accelerate, interest rates went up, those adjustable rate mortgages went up, and it got to a point where many people were soon priced out of their homes. They couldn't afford the interest payments that were associated with those mortgages, and therefore were forced out of their homes or had to try to sell their homes. This in turn created a huge supply of inventory on the market, which, adverse to a huge demand, huge supply will tend to suppress prices, and because of the huge supply, depress prices very, very rapidly. And this really precipitated an equally great downward slide in the economy, which basically built upon itself and caused more people to have to get out of their homes, a lot of it driven then by job loss. What's different today is that we do not have that easy credit availability. There's a lot more consumer protections in place to make sure that assets and income are verified. This is keeping demand somewhat in check to make sure that people who can afford housing are the ones actually getting mortgages. And you're still seeing tremendous price appreciation, particularly here in Denver, where we're seeing double-digit appreciation, and we're seeing housing prices at all-time high. So that kind of builds the appearance of a housing bubble, but it's driven not by inappropriate demand, it's driven by an incredibly low supply of inventory. And high demand on low supply will tend to drive up prices. So, in a nutshell, the drivers of the housing bubble that existed 10 years ago do not exist today. We are starting to see an increase in supply as builders are reacting, but I think in a much more rational way to the demand out there. And it is real demand. People who, through jobs, through assets, and through income, can afford housing. So if you have any other questions with regards to the housing market here in Denver, if you're looking to buy or sell, and I want to make a point that I help people who are really facing major life events like getting married, getting unmarried, having babies, seeing children go off to college and facing an empty nest. Those kinds of life events really precipitate some sort of real estate decision, and that's where my expertise comes into play. So please give me a call. My number is 248-961-2699. I'd love to chat with you.